Mikel Arteta holds talks with Julian Álvarez. Is there an exit for Zubimendi in the pipeline, with Real Madrid and Chelsea linked to the Arsenal midfielder? Plus, Buadi close to joining Manchester City after they complete the sale of Rodri to Barcelona. For me, at an absolute snip of a price for one of the best midfielders in the world. Plus, Chelsea quote £100 million for Pedro Neto. Am I crazy? Are they crazy? Are we living in the twilight zone? Like, share, and subscribe. This is the Done Deal Show. Now, ESPN reporting that Mikel Arteta called Julian Álvarez again last weekend in an attempt to convince him to sign for Arsenal. This is the headline. This is a snippet that I have seen reported and pasted everywhere today in respect to this deal. It comes at the sort of this potential deal. It comes at the same time as there are stories circulating that Barcelona may be coming in for Victor Gyökeres. We're going to talk more about that live on the Done Deal Show this evening. What I will add is we know Arsenal have been looking at Julian Álvarez all summer. We know that Gabriel Jesus and Martinelli, Arsenal are pushing or very open to selling. It was reported by Fabrizio Romano that Waneri will leave Arsenal this summer. So with those three leaving, all playing central striker, wingers, and attacking midfielders, it would stand to reason that more attacking options are going to be purchased and bought at Arsenal. The Julian Álvarez news hasn't gone away. Let's be very clear about this. The same report at ESPN also stated that Julian Álvarez has reiterated that his preference is still to join Barcelona. And it's getting to a point where Arsenal, I think, when it comes to a central striker option, have got to make a decision soon. At no point has this report, along with all the others, said that there is zero chance he chooses Arsenal, that he wouldn't play back in the Premier League, that he wouldn't play for Mikel Arteta. But what hasn't happened yet is a convincing for him to drop his pursuit of going to Barcelona. Now, interestingly, if the stories today are true that Victor Gyökeres could be on the wish list at Barcelona, they did look at him when he was at Sporting, that would all but end his chances of going there, and maybe Arsenal become the option. From a Barcelona perspective, I mean, someone I saw earlier on today said, well, there's no way they would drop Julian Álvarez to go for Gyökeres. He isn't as good. But if they can't get Julian Álvarez and Atletico are never going to do the business, they will at some stage have to pivot to another target. But how do you guys see this going? Do you think Arteta in the next 2 weeks can convince Julian Álvarez? Do you think Julian Álvarez is going to yield at some point in the next 2 weeks? Remember, the bids that went in from Barcelona to Atleti were at the end of May, the beginning of June, and we are now moving into mid-August. The football has begun. La Liga has started. The Premier League starts, not even this weekend, this Friday, 4 days' time, and the Premier League is starting again. How do you all see this playing out? Honestly, because I still think there's a chance that Arsenal get him. But if these stories are true about Victor Osimhen, these stories are true and he is attainable, there comes a point where Arsenal, I think, have got to make a decision. They went all in for Vinicius Jr. There was a real chance they got him. But Real Madrid had to yield on everything they said. They had to roll over. They had to have their bellies tickled. And they had to increase their offer significantly to stop Arsenal from getting Vinicius Jr. because they were on course to pull off one of the biggest transfers in the history of Premier League football. But what to do now? Do they go all in for a Barcola? Do they go all in for an Alvarez? Do they go, do you know what? We've done chasing you. Osimhen's available. Do they go out and look at a winger more like an Ndiaye and then put some money towards someone like a Victor Osimhen, like I've mentioned? What do you think Arsenal should do here? And this is about your opinion on where they should pivot. And I know not a lot of you, I know some of you watching hate Arsenal for one reason or another, but try and speak honestly about this. If you're an Arsenal fan watching, I can't wait to get your opinion. I want to know what you think and feel in relation to this, because Now, the other news also relates to Arsenal that I wanted to touch on today. And the first update on this comes from Simon Phillips, who here, as you can read, says that keep an eye on Zubimendi and Chelsea. Xabi Alonso presented Zubi's name to the Chelsea management. Alonso and Zubimendi deal with the same agent. So I heard about this talk this morning. This is from Simon Phillips, the ever credible Simon Phillips. At the same time, there's further reports here that Real Madrid have reignited their interest in Zubimendi, with Jose Mourinho approving a potential move for the Arsenal midfielder and giving a green light on Madrid's pursuit. Zubimendi would love the opportunity to join Madrid, whilst Arsenal are open to selling if the offers are right. The Gunners signed him for 65 million last summer, but their asking price is yet to be determined. So first of all, I want to know what you think of the idea of Arsenal selling Zubimendi just 1 year after buying him. Now, we know Bruno G has gone in, but Norgaard's already gone. Skelly looked amazing in the Community Shield and was arguably Arsenal's best and most consistent player in the last 3 or 4 games of last season, Champions League semi-finals and final, the running in the Premier League. When he came into that central midfield area, there was certainly an improvement. So there is an argument now that, of course, Bruno G and Miles Lewis-Skelly are ahead of Zubimendi. There is a lot of talk that Arsenal, this is from Sammy McBell, that Arsenal do need to sell players. They do need and want to balance their books. I personally feel selling Zubimendi this summer, unless there is a burning desire for the player to go. You know me, I'm not an advocate for players staying that don't want to be at clubs. I think they would be premature in selling him now. Because if you sell him and no other central midfielders come in, it takes one injury and you're suddenly looking a little bit light. And Arsenal were trying to win, well, now because of winning the Community Shield, they're trying to win 5 trophies this season. 1 down, 4 from their perspective to go. So I don't believe Arsenal should do this. I think Arsenal would be making a premature decision for a player that up until the last 2 months of last season was arguably the signing of the season and was playing impeccably well for the Gunners. However, if this could fund a new number 9, a top-class left winger, as an example, with Marino, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Bruno G, and Declan Rice there, maybe an academy player getting promoted, would Arsenal fans feel comfortable? Would Arsenal fans look at this and go, it makes sense? And if you are to sell him...
Big breaking news is that Manchester City have agreed a fee of £65.4 million with Barcelona for the best player at this summer's World Cup, Rodri. Now, City have been trying to convince him to stay at the club. There's been repeated offers from Barca after initial interest from Real Madrid. They wanted him to sign a new contract. He is into the final year of his contract, 30-year-old central midfielder. The player made it clear, though, he would prefer to move back to Spain this summer, despite having that year left on his contract. So Rodri scored the winning goal in the Champions League final in 2023, City's landmark trophy to date against Inter Milan, 4-time Premier League winner, Ballon d'Or winner, best player to say the recent World Cup this summer, has won the World Cup with Spain after the European Championship 2 years ago, and the Ballon d'Or winner from 2024. But Rodri, one of the best players to grace the Premier League, will be remembered with the likes of Patrick Vieira and Roy Keane in central midfield, seems to be going back to Spain, to Barcelona. Former player, of course, at Atlanta.
Rodri had entered the final year of his contract at City, and crucially, he made his own preference known early in this process, reportedly informing Real Madrid directly that his heart was set on Barcelona rather than a move to the Bernabeu, despite Los Blancos also showing genuine interest. That's a significant detail. Barcelona didn't just outbid a rival, they were the destination Rodri actually wanted, driven by a desire to end his career playing in Spain. There's a clear footballing logic on Barcelona's side too. Frenkie de Jong remains unavailable through a long-term knee injury, and that's left Hansi Flick's midfield short of exactly the kind of experienced, ball-winning presence Rodri provides. For a Barcelona side that's already won back-to-back titles in Spain, adding a player of Rodri's caliber in that specific role is being viewed internally as a genuine statement signing, one capable of pushing this squad toward Champions League contention rather than just domestic dominance. Let's take a moment to properly reflect on what Rodri actually leaves behind in Manchester, because the numbers are extraordinary. Since joining from Atletico Madrid back in 2019, for what was then a club record £62.5 million, he made close to 300 appearances, scoring 28 goals and providing 32 assists from the base of midfield. 4 Premier League titles, 2 FA Cups, 3 League Cups, a Champions League, including the winning goal in the 2023 final. And on the international stage, a European Championship and a World Cup with Spain, alongside the Ballon d'Or itself in 2024. Very few midfielders in the history of the Premier League can point to a trophy haul that complete